Okay, welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. My name is Mangg. Playing a little Final Fantasy VI. Not even randomized, just playing Final Fantasy VI, because why not? So, let's see. This week on this channel, Space Marine 2 has been the highlight, of course. And I started uploading, what did I upload? Seems loud. Does seem loud, doesn't it? Damn, I know there's a hotkey to lower the volume, I just don't know what it is. It's one of the F buttons, but I hesitate to push any because one of them is going to be load state. I guess it's not the end of the world. Oh, that's screenshot. That's mute. That's, I don't think I'm gonna find it. Oh, maybe it's... No, I have no idea. Oh, well. So anyways, some more solo role manging at Shadowbrook Manor. Fun little house adventure, haunted house adventure. And I do have you know, other things ready to upload. Actually, I've got a backlog still ready to go. So we got some more RimWorld stuff, of course, and I actually just recorded some solo videos for Factorio with Warptorio, just like 5 videos, I think. And I was actually thinking of recording something for Total War 3. I've tried to record something for Total War 3 like twice now. I think I still have my attempts recorded. But it just kind of peters out and it doesn't end anywhere, so I've never uploaded them. So I'd like to have something uploaded about Total War 3 because I think it's a great game. And I think the only way I'm really going to get anything finished and uploaded is if I basically do the tutorial. It's a pretty cool tutorial because it has kind of its own story arc. It does sort of lead into Realms of Chaos, but it is kind of its own cool story with cinematics and stuff. And it's not super quick, I don't think. I don't know. I don't remember how long it took me to do it. But I might record that. And then a while back, quite a while back at this point, probably at least a year, maybe 2 years ago, I had the idea that I wanted to record. It was after I did the StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty stuff. And I was like, you know, I want to keep getting into RTS games. So I'm gonna... I have a lot of fond memories of my childhood playing Warcraft 2. I never got anywhere in that game. Yeah, I basically just replayed like the first missions over and over because I was not good enough. Still not really good enough. Clearly. So, but I was like, you know, it'd be really cool is to like actually play through and beat Warcraft 2 and then go on and beat the campaign of Warcraft 3. That would be really awesome. And so I started recording that. I did not get especially far in Warcraft 2, but I do have a handful of videos recorded. And then I decided that it was just too rough, too tough for me. I think because I was playing on like too fast of a game speed, I needed to slow it down a lot more. And since then, I've actually discovered that there's an alternative called Wargus, that is basically a recreation of Warcraft 2 in a different engine, and that allows you to play at like high resolution and add some quality of life stuff, so you can actually select more units at once and things like that. And I tried it out and it seems pretty solid. So, but anyways, I abandoned Warcraft 2 at the time, and I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'll just move on to Warcraft 3, which I've never really played. And I started recording all the campaigns for that. And so I got through like the prologue, which is the orc section, the orc section. And then I did the human campaign, and then that rolls into the undead campaign, or the Forsaken, or whatever it is. And I got almost to the end of that, but then I hit a roadblock with this mission. One of the last undead missions that was just like, it was a very long mission. It's one of those like defense missions, I think, where you have to hold out for like a half an hour. And I died like right at the end. I failed. And I was just like, fuck this. And so I was going to like play on my own and get close to the end of that mission and then start recording again. And then I was just like, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow. And then I'll get to that the next day. And it just never happened. So I'd like to get back to Warcraft 2 and get back to Warcraft 3. And maybe actually play through those properly. Have I ever played any Command & Conquer games? Not really. We had, I think, Red Alert when I was younger, and I played it a little bit, but it just didn't look as appealing to me as Warcraft 2 did. So, you know, and I wasn't big on RTS as a kid anyways. So if I was going to be, like, in an RTS mood, I was going to just pick up Warcraft 2 because it was so much more vibrant and colorful, which appealed to my child brain. It probably still does, to be honest. And then when I was doing the best games of all time, I looked at a couple of the Command & Conquer games. I think that was the original and Red Alert. And it did kind of seem like something I might want to get into. I don't know. There's a lot of RTS games that I could play if I want to, like, kind of get better at RTS. But yeah, I'd like to get back to Warcraft 2 at least. It's like this legendary aspect of my childhood. It would be great to finally, like, overcome it. So that's all that. Two Brothers we're still in Factorio mode. Last night we tried out a new mod, sort of based on Warptorio. It's from the developer that made the Warptorio expansion mod, so I guess he kind of like spun it off into his own thing. So far it seems really pretty sweet. I don't know how well it would be solo, and I've heard complaints about it as a solo experience, but with the two of us, so far it's been really cool, and we're kind of excited to continue that. And then I'm sure we'll get back to Archipelago. Although, I know Lego said that he wants to do more RimWorld pretty soon, so might get to that. And then the Factorio expansion coming out. I mean, who knows what'll happen with that. I really am. I'm waiting to hear, like, kind of how long it takes, like how involved the expansion is to beat. Because it's just like I have no interest in ever playing through Space Exploration, the mod, because it's just kind of like a 400-hour thing. So I'm hoping that the expansion, just to kind of like beat it, for someone that has beaten the normal game multiple times, maybe like an 70-hour, 80-hour experience. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Any longer than that, and it's gonna be tricky. I'm hoping that what the DLC for Factorio focuses a bit more on is like replayability. But it doesn't really sound like that, because it sounds like you're progressing through different planets. Like, that sounds like space exploration. And so you have to go to this planet and get these resources, and then you go to this planet and get these resources, and that just takes a lot of time. I would have preferred it if it was just like a DLC that's like, here's like 8 new planets. You know, and on any given playthrough, just to like win, maybe you'll visit like 3 of them or something like that. I don't know. I mean, 8 obviously is quite a bit, with like new enemies and stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. Over on the Exploring series, I put out a video on where the flood couldn't reach, I think. The point and click adventure experience, which I think it did okay, you know. You know, it's SCP is down. I mean, there's no denying that SCP is fading away. You know, whether that's a temporary trend or just the end of an era, hard to say. Yeah, but I look at like the Volgan's channel, and his numbers are pretty much similar to mine, you know. And he's got over 1 million subs now. And, you know, if you're not cracking 10% of your sub count on viewership, it's a little rough. It's a little rough, especially because I see all these other channels, you know, for various other things like video game related and stuff like that, and their average video gets more viewers than they have subscribers. They're just hitting the algorithm hard. I mean, that's like the dream, where your sub count doesn't even matter because you're just pulling in all sorts of viewership. So yeah, I don't know, but it's certainly a big part of why I'm trying to move away from SCP slowly but surely. Nothing to do with my opinions of SCP. I will always love it, but yeah, I gotta consider the career. So, this week I also released another horror summary video on Lake Mungo. And it's, yeah, viewership is quite low. I'm not sure why. And every time I upload one of these, I get a lot of comments that are like, oh wow, new video series, this seems great. And it's like, yeah, it's getting to be not a new video series. So I don't know why people keep discovering it. And I've seen comments from people that are like, oh, this didn't show up in my subscription box and stuff. And it's like, what the hell is going on with that? What is going on with this series? So I don't know if just subscriptions are borked or something like that. Obviously, there's an issue with the... Well, it's not picked up by the algorithm yet. So I have to just keep making them. I just have to keep making them. That's all I can do. And that's what I've always said, is just make good videos and people will come. People will find them somehow. People will watch them. That's been my philosophy since I started. And it worked up till this point, so I'm not going to give up on that. So, yeah. I was originally planning to do The Bay next, because it's another one of my kind of favorite movies. But, the last 3 that I've done now have all been kind of found footage / mockumentaries. So I might hold off on The Bay because it's another one of those. And I think instead I'm going to go with Pontypool. You know, again, I'm really trying to stick to pretty obscure stuff or lesser known stuff. I mean, it might be interesting to just throw out like Hereditary and just see if that shifts the needle in any way, or you know, some other relatively big, well-known horror film. But I don't know. But Pontypool is one of my favorites. A really, I think, lesser-known gem with a very unique plot. Basically, the entire movie takes place inside of a radio station in a small, I want to say Alaskan town. It might be Canada, though. I don't remember. It might be Canada. But anyways, it's a small little, you know, winter icy town, isolated. And Stephen McHattie plays this sort of very vocal radio host. And he's got, you know, his couple of crew members that try to rein him in and stuff. And it's sort of it's basically a zombie outbreak in the town. And it never shows the town. It only follows, you know, Stephen McHattie in the radio station as he tries to like talk to people around the town and get information without leaving his booth so that he can keep broadcasting and try and, you know, figure out what's going on. And so it starts, and it's very, you witness like the start of the outbreak when there's just a lot of kind of confusion of like what's going on. And that it goes through the whole thing all the way up until the inevitable ending. But the real trick is, outside of that cool format, that they're not really zombies. It's a unique sort of virus that's like a language virus. It's transmitted through language and like a misunderstanding of language or something like that. And so the whole film is kind of about like, it's sort of initially spread through like double meanings of words. You know, how one word can mean 2 different things, and so people interpret it in different ways, and then this virus sort of gets created and spreads through language. I'll explain it all in the summary, don't worry. And so they are sort of zombies because they're trying to like eat their way into other people's mouths or something like that, in order to get at the language, to get at the words inside of them. Something like that. I don't remember exactly the the exact explanation of why they're eating each other. But yeah, the whole point is the virus is spread through language, and it follows a guy who's on the radio constantly, like, talking and, like, kind of trying to interpret and misunderstand the events that are going on. And and there's, like, you know... It's a really good movie. Stephen McHattie is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to summarizing it and getting it out there in the world a bit more. And then, of course, October will be multiple horror summaries. The ones... I know that I want to cover Hell House LLC. That's, like, for sure. I think I really would like to cover Dog Soldiers. I think that's a bit more well-known. But it's easily, like, in my top 5 of horror movies. I love it. I just absolutely love it. So I just have to cover it. I might put The Bay in there, but I'm really looking for more, like, just sort of traditional horror movies, or, like, kind of October-related horror or Halloween-related horror. You know, stuff like that. Stuff with ghosts and monsters and, you know, things like that. I want to avoid any, like, psychological horror, I don't know, natural horror or anything like that. So, yeah, for sure, Dog Soldiers, Hell House LLC. Beyond that, I do really like the movie Haunt, and I think that fits with the theme pretty well, but I'm not sure. It's fairly new. It might be kind of well known, so yeah, I don't know. I don't have a full list decided of what I want to cover. But that's the general vibes that I'm going for. So that's that. And then this week I worked on an SCP video called Discoherence, which is all about the Dust Bowl. Fun time in U.S. history. And so this is about anomalous dust storms during the Dust Bowl that turned everything to dust. It's pretty creepy, and you know, it's got D-class expeditions and stuff, and all the good stuff. And then I think next week's video is about Toontown, I think it's titled. I think it's titled Toontown, which I believe was the name of, like, that Disney MMO a long time ago. I think. So that's kind of odd. I don't know how many people remember that. And then the last SCP video before all the horror summaries is going to be on bear SCPs. Because there's a good number of bear SCPs. And I think I've covered 1 or 2 of them in other videos, like the replicating SCP, self-replicating SCPs and stuff. But, yeah. Bears. Bears are cool. Yeah. So that covers the channels. Last night I ran a one-shot with Shadow Dark for 4 of my family members. And the one-shot was the Great Manse Heist. Very simple. It's like 4 pages. and it has just a map of like a relatively, not a huge mansion really, but it's like a 2-story mansion. It's got like this little like tower next to it that goes up to a 3rd story, and then there's a basement, and there's probably like I don't know, I want to say 6 to 8 floor or rooms. I mean, the 2nd floor has like 5 rooms really, so there's not that many rooms. It's not that huge of a place. And it's owned by this really asshole greedy merchant lord named Salmo, and there's treasure in there, and that's basically it. It's 4 pages. It's got a map of the place. It's got like the guard patrols, because there's like 4 guards or something like that. And then it's just got like a 1-page list of all the room descriptions, which are really pretty tight. Like it's a lot of information kind of crammed into 4 pages. And then it's got some info about the notable residents, like the merchant lord and the mage that lives there, and the cook, stuff like that. And it offers potentially, like, it doesn't even have some hooks. Really, the hook is that this guy's an asshole. He's got treasure. He's a wealthy dude. You're gonna go in there and get the treasure. That's basically it. But it's a really kind of just fantastic one-shot, I think, because it offers so many different possibilities. There's so many different like approaches that the party could take to getting in there and getting access to the treasure. There's so many potential like side characters and interactions that could arise. Some of them, you know, kind of detailed a little bit in the module, but a lot of it just kind of not listed there, but it allows like a springboard to make original characters and ideas and stuff. And so I figured that my family, they usually like to have some sort of purpose to their adventures other than just get treasure because this guy has treasure. So I figured I needed kind of a genuine hook, sort of a moral hook. And with this group, you know, I can kind of be fairly blunt and fairly tropey, I guess. And so I was like, okay, there was a recent like breakout of an outbreak of a disease in your village. You know, like a plague broke out in your village, and they managed to get a shipment of this kind of rare medicine from the big city. And you know, people died. It was not pretty, but the majority of people did survive thanks to this shipment of medicine. But unfortunately, there's this one young girl who caught the plague late or whatever, and so the town ran out of medicine for her, and she's dying. But there's a rumor that there's one last dose. The merchant lord Salmo kept one dose for himself, locked away in his manor, just in case, you know, he catches the plague. He wants to have that on hand. And so the 4 of them have now tasked themselves with getting that last dose of medicine for the young girl by hook or by crook, you know, by any means necessary. So again, very kind of obvious. It's a dying girl. There's a really asshole merchant that's like, yeah, I might need the medicine myself, so I'll keep it. You know, really obvious stuff. But it's like, you know, then they don't feel bad about robbing this guy or anything like that. You know, they're doing all this to save a little girl's life. That kind of stuff. And so that's, of course, none of that's in the module. I just made that up. And I realized later that, like, by putting that hook in, I actually potentially trivialized the entire module if the players were smart at all. Fortunately, my players are not smart, and I don't say that often, but in this case, they did not think of it. I told them afterwards, and they were like, oh, yeah, you're right. But it would have been extremely easy with that hook to literally just rally the entire town to, like, launch a raid on this asshole's mansion. Because really, there's only, like, 4 guards that reside there. And the Merchant Lord's stats are actually extremely ridiculous. So I was thinking that he's like a former adventurer, he's a former fighter or something that just grew greedy and fat and stuff, but he could still whoop ass in combat. But anyways, there's normally only like 4 guards there, and then the mage. But it would be pretty easily overrun if you're just like, yeah, this guy's withholding this medicine, he's gonna let this girl die. Do we want to stop that? Should we stop that? Yeah, let's stop that. The thing is, though, the module does mention that if the guards are alerted at any point to, like, a potential threat, they will blow their, like, hunting horns or whatever. And that will summon additional guards from, like, the nearby town. So, I don't think I really put that through, because there's obviously not only 4 guards at all times that just live there, and those are the 4 guards. There's obviously a rotating lineup of guards that live in the town. And for some reason, I did very little prep for this adventure, let me say that. I should have read this and thought about it a bit more closely, but for some reason, I was like, yeah, there's like 4 guards, and they all live in the manor. And then when I was like, when they were like, okay, you know, where's my room? Because one of them actually ended up getting hired as a new guard. And he's like, okay, so where's my room? And then I was like frantically looking through the room descriptions, like, where do the guards sleep? And I didn't really put together that, like, oh yeah, they probably just live in town. Until it was too late, and I was like, okay, I guess they live here in this room. It worked. I mean, they liked the adventure, and it was all, they didn't really question it too much. But yeah, there would be a rotating group of like a dozen guards. Because the way that we did it is like, there's like 4 guards or so, a guard captain, and they're on guard for like 12 hours every day, 7 days a week, you know, and it's just like extremely boring every day of their lives. And then during the other 12 hours when they're not on guard, you know, it's sort of like, I told the player they got hired that his shift is from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., which is just fucking atrocious. Nightmarish hours, 7 days a week, no breaks. You know, no vacations, you're always there. But then they were like, well, what's happening during the other 12 hours? Because, you know, there's not enough guards. I was like, well, you know, there's always 2 at the front door, so they rotate. And that's why they're kind of hiring an extra guard to let people rotate some more. And then for the upper level, there's like a catwalk kind of on the roof, where they usually have a guard patrolling. And during the other 12 hours, the guard captain kind of just occasionally patrols up there just to keep an eye on things. But, you know, they don't really they don't get a lot of thieves in general, and they don't really expect anyone to break in during daylight hours, so it's not as heavily guarded. That was my explanation, and they were fine with that, so it worked. But I think had that group rallied the entire town, the module actually kind of states that the guards don't really like their job too much. You know, because they have to work long hours. It's very boring. Nothing ever happens, so on and so forth. So they're not really too pleased with their job. I don't think like the 10 other guards or the whatever, the 5 extra guards in town would be like, hey, we should stop this angry mob that's storming our boss's manor because he's allowing a young girl to die. I mean, they would have to rally essentially the whole town. You know, it would have to be like the angry sort of Beauty and the Beast mob coming with torches and stuff. They couldn't just like get like 5 hirelings or something and be like, hey, you guys, you look tough. You know, let's storm the manor. Like, no, you need a mob for this to work. But again, it wouldn't really be that tough to do that. Again, fortunately, they didn't think of it, and it's fine. So, their plan was initially they're just like, let's walk up to the place. And the module is not too specific about where this manor's located, especially in relation to the town. So I'm like, okay, it's about a half a mile down like a dirt road. And the dirt road specifically goes from town to the manor. You know, it's just a well-traveled path between the manor and the town. Because the manor gets deliveries every 10 days of supplies and stuff. And so, you know, they just kind of walking down the road, and I'm like, okay, you see the 2 guards, and I show them the image of the manor from the outside and what it looks like, how big it is, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I'm like, you see the guards, and, you know, they see you because you're just walking down the dirt road that leads only to the manor. I think they thought that they could just, like, it was a road that just went somewhere else and they could just kind of walk by it. But no, I'm gonna die. Yep. It's, the road leads only to the manor. And so they're like, well, shit, you know, now they see us coming, like, we can't just sneak around or anything like that. So, Lego was playing a priest. I randomly generated characters for them. I generated like 6 random characters and let them pick. So Lego was playing a priest. So he walked up to the guards and went into this whole spiel about wanting to bless their home, bless the house, and ward it against the plague. And he wanted to like get inside in order to bless all the doors and windows and stuff from the inside, in exchange for a donation to the church. It was pretty good role playing on his part, and it's not a terrible idea, I suppose. But yeah, the problem is he's speaking to just the front guards that they're supposed to protect this manor, and he's asking for them to pay him and let him inside and like move around through the house. It would be a pretty shitty guard that would allow something like that. So he rolled pretty well on his charisma checks. So one of the guards gave him a little bit of a donation, like 2 silver, and did let him into the lobby, the front lobby of the house. And that was it. And then he said, you know, I can take you around the exterior of the house if you want to bless the windows and stuff from outside. And so he did that. And I implied to Lego that like the guard seems to just be kind of doing this because he's bored, you know, and is happy to have something other than just standing at the front door to do. And so then the others were like, do you have any sort of other jobs that you might do if you're looking for any extra help, hired help? And that's when I mentioned that, oh, I think the guard captain is looking to maybe hire another guard. And so my brother-in-law was playing a fighter, a dwarf fighter, and he's like, well, I've guarded houses before, blah, blah, blah. And so there was, you know, a conversation between him and the guard captain, and then he took the fighter into the back garden of the house. And it's like, all right, well, let's see, you know, if you can, let's see if you can actually fight, you know, if you are who you say you are. So they did like a little sparring match with some wooden sticks, and yeah, I mean, it was sort of role based, but you know, it's an OSR game, so I really kind of encourage any amount of creativity. So they kind of exchanged a couple good blows with the wooden sticks, and then my brother-in-law was like, okay, well, I'm gonna like sweep his legs, you know, and knock him to the ground. And he rolled well, and I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah. And the guard captain, you know, he was a relatively good-natured sort. Most of the people working in the manor were decent folk. It's just the merchant lord, there's a real asshole. So he hired him, and that gave them kind of an in. It didn't ultimately amount to a whole lot. It's not like he kind of eventually left the back door open or something like that. He didn't really poke around much. The big problem was that we were really constrained for time. We started late the session and we had to end a bit earlier. So there just wasn't a lot of time to really flesh out the whole experience. And so when he came back to the manor the next day to start his shift and to start living there, my sister, who's playing a halfling thief, and halflings in Shadowdark can turn invisible for a short time every day, once per day. So she snuck in along with him. And I decided that, okay, you know, she snuck in, but now she's on the clock. Time is ticking with her invisibility. So I literally just set a timer, visible timer, for 5 minutes. And she just had to, as quickly as possible, kind of go through what she wanted to do in the house. And she had no idea of the layout of the house or anything like that. And she had 5 minutes on the clock. It was very intense. It was a very tense time. And she had, like, at the last second, she managed to, like, burst into this, the mage's room upstairs and dive under the bed while invisible. And then she became visible again. And it turned out that the mage was extremely paranoid. He's jumpy, he's paranoid about everything, he's fearful of everything. So he was completely convinced that there was a ghost now residing in his room. And there was a bit of metagaming there where my brother-in-law was given a tour of the house by one of the servants, and he became particularly interested in the mage's room, and he's like, I want to meet the mage, you know, I want to know who I'm protecting here, and what if if he jumps around a corner and I attack him because I don't know who he is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he became very insistent about getting into the mage's room and, like, talking to the mage and stuff. Obviously, because he, as a player, knew that that's where my sister was hiding. Yeah, I didn't really call him out on it or frown on it, because it was a one-shot, so I'm pretty lenient during one-shots, especially when we're restricted on time. But yeah, in a normal game, that's a big no-no, and that sort of behavior should really be curbed. And I mean, you can tell someone not to metagame over and over again until the cows come home, but it's really something you have to just accept and embrace as a player. Like, you have to be conscious of it and be like, okay, no, I know that my character wouldn't think that, wouldn't know that, wouldn't do that. It's just something you have to kind of learn. Because, again, for newer players, it's very easy to do exactly what he did. And it's like, well, I know that she's in there as a player. I know that knowledge, so I want to do this because that's advantageous to us, to our group, to me, to whatever. And so deliberately restricting yourself and separating player knowledge from character knowledge is often tricky for many new players, and even, experienced players. Sometimes it's like, I have to deliberately act against my own knowledge because that's the rules, or you know, that's proper play. But yeah, I mean, we are trying to create, you know, this sort of facsimile of reality, and so separating player knowledge and character knowledge is often important to maintain that. Anyways, she eventually did get out once a servant like brought the mage some food and started cleaning his room and stuff. She managed to slip out the door. And at the start of the session, I gave them a random magic item, which was extremely valuable. It's basically boots of spider walking that lets you just walk up any vertical surface. So she used that to climb down from outside and climb down the walls and leave. So eventually they settled on, they found out about the deliveries every 10 days. And so they decided to take the delivery in, and that was going to allow them to get the thief back in the house. Because once the fighter got a tour of the house and found out about things, he found out about the master bedroom of the home that they weren't really allowed to go into for any reason. So they're like, that's definitely where the medicine's going to be. So, you know, he wasn't a prisoner. He was allowed to go back to town, obviously. Technically, he was supposed to live in town, but whatever. So he went back and, you know, he told them all the info he could about the house and about the master bedroom upstairs and blah, blah, blah. So they used the delivery cart. They talked to the guy doing the deliveries, and they're like, we'll deliver the cart next time for free. You know, we just want to visit our friend that works there as a guard. Again, they could have just said, we're trying to get in to steal the medicine for the young girl that's dying. But whatever. And so they brought the cart in, and that allowed the guys to open the front door to, like, you know, check things out and haul the deliveries into the house. So the thief went invisible again, snuck in, got up to this master bedroom, picked some locks, got into the chest, got the medicine. She actually left all the gold that was in the chest because they were here for a very moral purpose. And then she managed to slip out undetected by climbing back down the side of the walls. And like we were out of time at this point, so we kind of had to just quickly wrap it up. And I wanted to end on a good note. So yeah, she got out undetected with the medicine, and the girl lived, and everybody was happy. And so they were all quite pleased with the session. The only problem was my aunt, who was playing the wizard, did absolutely nothing the entire session. Not a single thing. One of the spells that she got was Charm Person. And so there were multiple times where she was like, okay, well, I'm going to use I'm going to charm this person. But I had to stipulate, I had to make it clear that magic is not just this invisible thing. Like, you can't just, like, hold your hands behind your back and, like, twiddle your fingers and suddenly there's a spell cast. Like, it's typically a very ostentatious thing. There's, like, you know, you have to kind of chant something, you move your fingers in specific gestures, and there's, like, a kind of a glowing aura as the spell takes effect. There's really no mistaking it. Which is why I always like psionics, because that often is much more invisible. You know, telepathy and stuff like that. That's, like, purely mental. And allows for a lot more shenanigans like that of what they wanted to do. So yeah, they could charm an isolated person and it'd probably be perfectly fine. But the problem was they could never get anyone isolated. There was always, like, another guard there or something. So in the end, had we had more time and they could properly formulate a plan involving that, it would have been okay, but they were just so rushed that they just never could think of something for the wizard to do, so she just sat there the entire time. You know, she said that she still had fun because she was involved with, like, the jokes and stuff that was happening, but yeah, it's a bummer, and it's always a tricky thing with heists, especially I remember when I played, and we did a lot of heists because we loved that shit, or I loved that shit at least. And I was the plan guy. I came up with all the plans. And it's very tough to have a heist plan that equally involves every player and every character. Because usually for stuff like that, you want to minimize. You want to have the least amount of characters involved in order to minimize risks of being caught and fucking up dice rolls and things like that. So, yeah, involving all characters equally in a heist. Not easy. And truth be told, Lego as the priest also did not do a whole lot. And so he was joking that the two of them were just at the tavern getting drunk the entire time while the thief and the fighter handled everything at the manor. But like I said, I think everyone still enjoyed it. And they want to do kind of another similar thing. So I'm actually planning or thinking of running the Kidnap the Archbishop module, which I ran for them once like 4 years ago, and they did disastrously. But it might be fun to redo it and see if they won't remember it at all. They're not that they're not that good. But that's a really fun, similar adventure that's very open-ended. Okay, I think that's enough talking. So, more 40k Space Marine 2. More solo role manging. More Two Brothers Play Factorio with Warp Drive Machine. And we have Discoherence over on the Exploring series. But for now, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. I'll see you fine folks next week.